Tonight I'm talking about the concept of long-term investing, an idea that's been misinterpreted so often in so many ways that it's become more of a hindrance than a help for most investors. So listen up. I'm going to set you straight tonight. When we talk about investing for the long term, you think about making lots and lots of money over years, decades even, lifetimes. That's something I can teach you how to do using the disciplines that allow me to make fortunes for my already rich partners back in my old hedge fund, where I ran $500 million. Ran being synonymous for manage. Yes, it can be true. The rich get richer. But I've seen them get poorer, too, because of the long-term obsession in the face of a dramatic change in the facts. You see, all too often, the notion of long-term investing is invoked as an excuse, as an alibi for poor performance. You often hear that you shouldn't worry about the losses or the profits that you're missing, that it's okay to take short-term pain.
The house of pain.
Because you'll make money back that you're losing with long-term gains. Now, come on! Sometimes that's true, sure, but most of the time, losing money month after month or year after year just isn't a good recipe for making money over a long-term horizon. Making money over the long term is the ultimate goal, but it's also become the ultimate excuse for short-term losses. And believe me, that kind of thinking will only make you a worse, not better investor. So before I can teach you how to invest for the long term, I have to disabuse you of all the allegedly long-term alibis that you've heard for so long. For example, when you go to the bank, they do not care whether you made your money in short-term trades or from long-term investments. The teller, presuming you can find a human, isn't going to say, well, I can accept this deposit, but not that one. That's dirty money from speculation. Take it somewhere else. Money is money. But to hear these people talk, the only money worth making is the kind that comes from staid, boring investing. The fact is, the only difference between trading and investing has to do with your time horizon. Trades are positions you hold for a shorter period of time, weeks or months. And investments are positions that you plan on being in for longer, say a year and a half or more. So where do these sirens of long-term investing lead you astray? What advice do you need to approach in an Odysseus-like fashion, with your ears covered and your body tied to the mast, so that you won't listen or do anything that could damage your portfolio? The most important thing is to not confuse owning stocks for the long term with the ideology, and that's the right word, it's a pejorative word, the ideology of buy and hold, or as I skeptically dub it, buy and forget. Just because you have a long-term horizon, that doesn't mean you can afford to have loss after loss in the short term. And more important, just because they are unrealized, believe me, that doesn't make them into gainers or even potential gainers long-term. Losses are losses, realized or otherwise. And the notion of being in something for the long term doesn't justify owning damaged goods. The stocks of companies that are in bad shape, and the misguided hope that they'll eventually recover. I mean, don't they all? You always have to keep track of your investments, doing the homework that I talk about on the show all the time. And that means going over the quarterly report, reading the SEC filings, all readily available instantly, listening to the conference calls, or if you can't be on them because they're at work, reading the transcripts later. Much of the research that's used to be available, it was only available to people paying millions of dollars in commission, can now be found at Yahoo Finance. And it's worth reading, too. Hey, it's your money. Invest the time in it. The advocates of buy and hold, they act like investing for the long term means you have a license not to pay attention to the short term. But you always have to pay attention. The moment you stop is the moment you will start losing money. And you will never be able to recover from those losses until you get engaged with your stocks again. Those waiting for the long-term prospects to turn for a company like a Fannie Mae, a Lehman Brothers, hey, General Motors, they can keep waiting. Good luck with that. Or in other words, The idea of long-term investing has become confused with lazy and apathetic investing. As anyone who owns stocks through the misery and horror of the crash in 2008 and the beginning of 2009 knows, doesn't work anymore. Investing for the long term does not mean owning stocks forever, no matter the cost. If there's one good thing, and it's hard to find, but a good thing that the crash did, it's disabused people of the idea that you can just buy and hold stocks forever, and magically they will somehow make you money, as long as you don't pay too much attention, try too hard to game short-term moves. Still, from the stories I read and some pundits I hear, the lessons are already being forgotten. I can't have that happen. Not on my Mad Money watch. I've always been an opponent of buy and hold. I admit that. I've always told you it's an easy way to lose, not make money. And now buy and hold is dead, despite what you hear. I read the obituary. I wrote the obituary. Many of the people who foolishly espouse this philosophy have at last changed their tune. But that doesn't mean investing for the long term is dead, too. And it doesn't mean stocks can't make you money over an extended period of time. Although that's what many of you might think if you've confused long-term investing, good concept, with buy and holding, silly concept. The truth is that stocks are still the best way to make money. There's no doubt about it. That's for your retirement plan, for your 529 plan, IRA, 401k, send your kids to college, or just to build up savings so that you can afford big-ticket items like a house or a car. Especially stocks with consistently growing dividends that allow you to compound your wealth by reinvesting, the kind of dividend payers that I highlight in the book, Getting Back to Even. However, you will never get any of those things if you use the notion of a long-term horizon as an excuse or an alibi for bad performance and holding stocks that can't even afford to pay their own debts, let alone dividends. Something you can't find out if you buy and forget. It doesn't morph. It doesn't just come to you. Here's the bottom line. Investing for the long term has gotten mixed up with a lot of bad ideas. But that doesn't mean it's impossible or not worth trying. I have the disciplines and strategies that will make it possible for you to build long-term wealth by investing in stocks. Just as long as you remember that saying, I'm a long-term investor, is no longer an excuse for not doing the homework or following the rules. If anything, being in stocks for the long term requires more diligence and more patience than if you're in them for the short term. So don't throw away all the lessons that I teach you. You're going to need them. To paraphrase that fabulous, poetic amateur investor and world-renowned beauty, Gertrude Stein, a loss is a loss is a loss.